you're a very experienced real estate investor in the commercial arena, and you're actually doing it from a blockchain standpoint for STO, security token offering. So you have one for your current fund. How do you see blockchain changing the game and impacting the future of real estate?
Blockchain is going to change the impact blockchain is going to impact the entire financial system. So blockchain, just like the internet, was a way to transfer value or to transfer communications instantaneously anywhere in the world. So before you had to pay an insane amount of money to make a long distance call, now you can, we're doing this free over the internet, and you can do instantaneous communication through email and all the rest of that stuff. Blockchain facilitates the instantaneous transfer of assets and money. So now you can, I can, just send money instantaneously to you, Chris, and you'll know that you have it. And I don't have to go through a bank. We could just go directly. And that's the same thing that blockchain is going to do. Blockchain, so, for example, investing in real estate, it's going to change the game, because right now, if you're a syndicator, you're out there doing things with paper, you're out there, doing things with, direct. And later, when, a lot of this stuff gets really clicking and you'll be able to trade it. So you'll, number one, be able to crowdfund a lot more. Number two, you'll be able to have a better relationship with some of your investors, because you'll be able to send out communications to all your investors, and they get that instantaneously through the smart contract, and they get it delivered to them. But the other really cool thing is that it's going to change title. It's going to change probably even the way, houses are recorded. So at some point, houses will be up on the blockchain. They might be, houses would be considered an NFT. I'm not sure if they, will call them an NFT in the future, non-fungible token. So there's just every part of the financial system is going to be impacted. And, I believe real estate is going to have a tremendous amount of benefits because of blockchain.
How soon do you think it'll be when we have the platform, and not just the platform, because there are a few folks, and we had some of them on earlier, that have a platform and have a well integrated platform, or so they claim. So how soon do you think it'll be for the secondary market to mature enough to where we start seeing the theoretical liquidity that blockchain is going to provide real estate, that we start seeing that in real time?
Well, first, I don't think that you're going to have instantaneous liquidity for every asset. Just like for publicly traded companies right now, you don't have a bunch of liquidity in really small companies with pink sheets. They're thinly traded. And I believe that more than likely is going to be the same thing with any type of real estate investment, unless it's a really large fund, unless it's a worldwide fund, or it's something that you can. There'll be liquidity makers, and there'll be people that will participate in actively trading it. What you'll probably see is that the liquidity that you're going to get is that you can take your share. Unlike in a current paper syndication, you could take your share and potentially trade it to somebody else. So if I had $50,000 of your deal, I could come and go to somebody else like Chris and say, Chris, are you interested in, buying a share of this? And if he says yes, it's like we can trade directly. You could list that with a broker dealer. Then you can list it with these things called automatic trading systems, which are ATSs. They're a step down from exchanges. And then I think if you get a large enough asset, those will be listed on security token exchanges. And more than likely, at some point, security tokens will also be traded on crypto exchanges like Coinbase and Kraken. So you're just going to have a lot more options for liquidity. It's not necessarily going to be super huge instantaneous liquidity. Mm-hmm. The other thing that security tokens will allow you to do is you'll have the ability to have liquidity because you'll be able to borrow against your share. So at some point, if a lender gets comfortable with the net asset value of the fund or the net asset value of the property, you could potentially put your share up, in and borrow against that, which is insanely difficult right now to do in a normal syndication. So it's just, and then there's a lot of stuff that my imagination can't come up with, but the guys in the DeFi world, the guys and the women in the DeFi world will come up with.
Yeah, they'll figure it out. So should sponsors go down this rabbit hole of creating STOs now, or should they be more focused on, obviously number one priority should be running their business and running their project, but outside of that, go in the traditional security offering and maybe put the framework in place for an STO at a later point?
Every sponsor that's doing real estate syndications now can easily just talk to their accountant and talk to a securities attorney that knows something about digital assets and knows something about issuing security tokens. And they can put the language in their offering documents, because they don't have to immediately issue it as a share. But if you start like putting in the legal groundwork so that it allows you at some point to list the asset and to make it a tradable asset, you don't have to change anything with your business model. You can continue to learn about how security tokens are going to go, and you can see if it's going to be right for you. And so then in the future, like next year or 5 years down the road, you can say, oh, we've already got this in our offering documents. So I don't have to go back to, my 20 investors or my 100 investors and say, we're going to make a change to the offering document. So it's already in there. And that's the easiest thing you can do to start preparing for, how this shift is going to take place.
It seems like at some point in time, everything's an STO. It just becomes, that's just the way you do it. Now that may take 10 years, 15 years.
I believe investors are going to demand it, so I believe once investors see, how much other, opportunities they have. And then the other key thing is when you want a security token, you own your asset. That asset follows you around the world. So it's not like it's locked up in, a file cabinet. It's not like I have to, call up a sponsor and say, oh, I'm moving my address and, can you send the checks down to Costa Rica? So, those assets are your assets. You control them, you own them.
Yeah. It's like logging into PayPal and changing your address there. You don't have to talk to PayPal. You do it through the system.
Right.
So the internet commoditizes everything. This Web 3.0 blockchain era is going to do the same thing, but in a more escalated fashion. You mentioned something earlier that brought this thought to mind. How do you think blockchain and tokenization is going to impact the brokerage side of commercial real estate?
Right now, a lot of people think that the play is actual tokenizing of assets, and I don't see that. So I don't see like somebody coming in and tokenizing every property. I think it's going to be expensive. I think that's going to be something more that's going to be done at the title level. I think that, right now the opportunity and the easiest opportunity is to securitize funds. And then at some point you can tokenize assets and put them on the blockchain. I really don't have any opinion on how it's going to change the brokerage, because I really haven't given that a lot of thought. So honestly, I can't tell you from a broker standpoint, because I've really focused on the cryptocurrency part of it, the digital asset part of it, and the own your assets part of it, and financial, and the even greater financial freedom that you're going to get with controlling your assets. So I'm sorry, Chris, I don't really have a great answer for that.
You answered it. I appreciate it.